Yo, this is not a song, it's a statement about the state of a very lost generation. How could we let our little boys become...
A wonderful morning starts with integrity. The integrity starts with you.
Splash FM 106.7.
Panorama.
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 Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Top of the morning to you. It's 2 minutes past 8 o'clock here in the city of Abeokuta, and I'm sure across the country as well. My name is Boyega Olaniyi. Congratulations to Tobiloba Amushon and Ese Brume, two Nigerian ladies who did us proud at the World Athletics Championship. Just in the wee hours of the morning, like I put it, while men slept, the girls were doing wonders. Tobiloba Amuson especially broke the world record in the 100 meters hurdles, running a 12.12 in the semifinals. She even went ahead and even did better than that, running a 12.06, but because it was wind assisted, it didn't count as a world record. But nonetheless, not taking anything away from our victory today. The first Nigerian to win a gold medal at the World Athletics Championship, and the first African to win a gold medal at that particular 100 meters hurdles. So many records she broke there. It's a Brume as well in the long jump, also won silver as well. So what a championship we had, and what a championship the girls had as well. Some good news there to start the morning. Welcome to Panorama on the Integrity Station, Splash 106.7 FM.
Congratulations to the ladies, making us proud there, making themselves proud, but also making us proud as Nigerians. And welcome to a new week on Panorama. As you know, at the beginning of every working week, we start off from 8 to 10 and take you on a discussion or a conversation around socio-political, socio-economic issues on our current affairs program, which you know as Panorama. You can follow along, not just by listening from your radio. You can also listen to us on our live stream on Facebook, Splash FM 106.7. You find us, capturing everything in full audio-visual quality there on Facebook. We'll also set up Twitter space, we should set up Twitter space as well at Splash FM 1067. But you can also tweet at us. Excluding the Twitter space, you can tweet at us. Don't forget to use our hashtag. It's hashtag Panorama on Splash. We also have a WhatsApp line dedicated for your messages. It's 0817-555-1067. Let me chip in that it's 6 days to the end of CVR exercise. At this point, it's kind of redundant because, this is an exercise that is over a year long. Plus, we've been talking about it for a long time. But at least until the 6 day lapses, every time that I'm here, I'll do my part to amplify it to whoever is concerned. That is, whoever is yet to register fresh or yet to transfer their card or transfer their voting points, their polling unit, or replace their defaced card, or do the necessary, really, for the remaining 6 days. As long as I'm on air, I'll make sure to sound it out loud. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lola Neduteni.
Maybe each time you call us, maybe the first question we'll ask you is, do you have your PVC, or have you done the needful as regards registering for your PVC.
That would be the ticket of admittance to air your comments.
Well, that's just on a lighter note. But I've picked up my PVC, like I promised last week that I was going to make sure that I did that. And I can confirm that if you did transfer, you try to replace your card, you try to move your polling unit, if you did all of that on the INEC website last year, your card is ready. Because I picked mine up. I did mine around July last year, just about a week or two after it opened. So after the CVR exercise opened, so you might want to get to the INEC local government office in your vicinity to pick up your card. So that's the information that we thought to let you have this morning. But let's get to our issue of the day very quickly. It was with pomp and pageantry that President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday, 19 July, unveiled the new Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited in an official ceremony that concluded a metamorphosis that began last year. From a public corporation to a limited liability company, it was incorporated in September 2021, weeks after the Petroleum Industry Act was signed into law by President Buhari. In compliance with Section 53, subsection 1 of the Act, which requires the Minister of Petroleum Resources to cost the incorporation of the NNPC Limited within 6 months of the enactment of the Act in consultation with the Minister of Finance on the nominal shares of the company.
On 1st of July this year, NNPC Limited legally transitioned into a company whose operations will be regulated by the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, as the President authorized the transfer of assets from the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation to its successor company, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. But what do these supposed changes mean? What does all this technical jargon mean for the average Nigerian? Is it, as is being rumored by some, mere window dressing or a case of old wine in new bottles? This, among other issues, is what our guest will make clear to us.
Those other issues will include another review of Nigeria's debt-to-revenue ratio, as the news broke, pun intended, a few days ago that Nigeria's debt payment now exceeds revenue in the first quarter of 2022. According to details of the 2022 Fiscal Performance Report for January through April, Nigeria's total revenue stood at 1.63 trillion naira, while debt servicing stood at 1.94 trillion naira, showing a variance of over 300 billion naira. And joining us this morning for an explainer of the aforementioned is economic historian, lawyer, and lecturer Dr. Tunji Ogunyemi. Is outside the country, so we'll try to connect with him now so that he can help us make sense of some of these issues, especially the NNPC Limited. I'm certain that many people have been asking questions as regards what does this mean. Some people have said it has been privatized. Some have said, well, just not yet, but it's in the process of being privatized. And we have Dr. Ogunyemi joining us live on the line now. I've even lost track of where you are. I know at some point the Gambia, at some point out of the Gambia. But good morning to you. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ogunyemi.
You're welcome.
Dr. Ogunyemi.
You're welcome. I can hear you perfectly.
All right, interesting. So let's start by asking you to unbundle what exactly this transition of the NNPC into NNPC Limited, what does it mean? Just try and break it down so that our people at home can fully get a grasp of it.
It is not difficult. Under the Petroleum Industry Act, it actually means that NNPC has ceased to be a public corporation. It is now a limited liability company with shares, and those shares are held by its shareholders. That's what it means.
Right. But what changes now in Nigerians' perception of NNPC and its previous use or function as a government entity and now as a limited liability company? What changes?
Yeah, many changes, but four are more critical. The first is that henceforth, NNPC Limited, that is Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, no longer corporation, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, will now
Oh my. Looks like we're experiencing some network difficulties. We'll attempt to reconnect with Dr. Oyemi. As we mentioned, he's out of the country, so we're hoping that technology is stable enough for us to be able to link up with him without experiencing a lot of disruption. So we'll attempt that reconnection, and as soon as we can get him on, he'll continue by explaining whether, as we've said earlier, the NNPC's transition from Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation to Nigerian National Petroleum Company, whether there's more to it than a mere name change. I'm sure a lot of you have been wondering what these changes mean to you. Why should you be concerned? What has changed? You previously know the NNPC as a government-owned entity or a state-owned enterprise, but now it is said that it is a private and commercialized entity. And so what does that mean? There are lots of questions being thrown up by this metamorphosis from NNPC to NNPC Limited, and we hope that Dr. Tunji Ogunyemi will answer some of these questions. In the meantime, you can, of course, be aware of our social media channels. Facebook, where we're live streaming at Splash FM 106.7, Twitter at Splash FM 1067. Welcome back,
the second
Dr.
implication
Ogunyemi.
before the internet. Yes, I'm sorry for the internet glitches.
It's
it
okay.
is possible around here. The second implication is that it is now a commercial entity. It is commercialized such that it will operate not as a bulwark of subsidy. In other words, it's not going to be operating as a public property, dishing out the services that it's ready to give on a subsidized basis. No, it will now operate purely on commercial basis. In other words, the product of NNPC shall now be paid for, just like you will pay for the services of Coca-Cola. So the prices will be set by the market forces, and it will no longer be operating under the regime of subsidy. I think Nigerians should know that. So if the landing cost, for example, is 190 naira, you can be very sure that NNPC will not sell at 190, but will mark it up with some profit margin and sell across board. And the third is that there will now be differentials in the pricing of petroleum products, such that the idea of bridging cost, which government comes in to pay in terms of subsidy, so that if, for example, NNPC deposits its petroleum products in Mosimi, Ogun State, the cost of transporting it from Mosimi to Kaduna will now have to be factored in by those in Kaduna, and they will pay the extra. It's operating purely on commercial basis. We operate purely on commercial basis and no longer on subsidy regime. And the fourth reason, the fourth difference in this operation is that Nigerians can now, from July next year, buy shares in NNPC because it may now be listed in the capital market. These are the clear differences between the old NNPC and the new NNPC Limited.
Right. One of the areas of concern is what happens now to federal allocation. The new CEO of NNPC Limited, who coincidentally or not coincidentally was the group managing director of the now defunct NNPC, has said that NNPC, the new limited liability company, no longer will remit any money to the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee, and that its monetary arrears, because it hasn't actually remitted any money, according to findings by some papers, it hasn't remitted any money this year and even has some arrears, a backlog of arrears from previous years. So what will happen to that backlog of arrears? And now that it has come out to say that it is no longer obliged to pay the federal government any money in form of FAC allocation, what will happen given that oil is a major source of funding or revenue for the government?
First of all, there is a transition period between now and July next year. Sorry, between now and June next year, during which NNPC will still operate on some of its old platform of financial relations with the federating units of Nigeria, the federal, state, and local government. There is that transition period. The second is that, yes, it is true, NNPC shall no longer be paying dividends by the time it comes fully under the Petroleum Industry Act and under its incorporation, the license of its incorporation. It will now be paying dividends. It will pay dividends to its shareholders only after an annual general meeting is held. Regularly, NNPC every month transmits transmits its, if you like, revenue to the federational account on the basis of the provisions of Section 162 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that all revenues earned by the agencies of government shall be paid to the federation account. This is also working with Section 18 and 81 of the same Constitution. But now, NNPC cannot be remitting any revenue again. It will now, after an AGM, annual general meeting, transmit, or if you like, remit to its shareholders the appropriate dividends. So, and that is one will be very sorry under that situation for revenue challenged states like Osun, like Ekiti, and 15 of the 19 states in northern Nigeria that are utterly revenue challenged. So it's going to be very, really very tight for those states, particularly states that are not just revenue challenged, but are heavily indebted. A very good example is Osun State.
So what does the government stand to gain from this? Because it does look like the government is, letting go its major, one of its major source of revenue. So what gives? What does the government gain in, this?
Let me also add that who are the new owners?
Thank you for that question. First of all, what does the government gain? The first that government will gain is that henceforth, the almost 7 trillion naira that it uses to subsidize petroleum products will now be saved and be distributed amongst the federating units of Nigeria. That is the first, and that is very significant because government uses almost 1/3 of what it earns, or in fact, 1/3 of its total expenditure budget to subsidize petroleum products, especially petrol. 1/3, to the extent that that practice has driven government completely out of financial sustainability, such that the total amount of money that the government earns on the current basis now is not even enough to pay the interest on its debt. So the first effect is that government will because government is no longer going to subsidize anything. It will save the money not used in subsidizing for itself and then distribute amongst the federating units. That's the first gain. The second is that all NNPC projects, if you like, joint venture cash calls, NNPC prospecting, everything, all the projects of NNPC, particularly JVCC, which consumes more than half of NNPC's income, will no longer be on the burden of, will no longer be a burden of the federal government or a burden of the Federation of Nigeria. Will now be borne wholly by NNPC and its shareholders, particularly the international oil companies. So that's the financial effect. And I must say that the downside of it really is that Nigeria will now be able, Nigeria will actually now pay the exact market price of oil, of petroleum products. Here is something between 500 and 600 naira per liter.
So Lola also asked as to who are the new owners now as it stands at the moment.
Okay. Of corporate shares. No, on behalf of the Nigerian Federation. So, and it is 200 shares valued at 1 naira per share. But, experts have said that that value of NNPC is not just incorrect, but maybe fairly fraudulent. That NNPC is actually worth more than 200 billion shares. But we cannot really say that until the NNPC is enlisted in the capital market. If it goes and it is a member of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, yes, the real value will now come out. But tentatively for now, it is owned these corporations, that is, Federal Ministry of Finance Incorporated and the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources Incorporated. 50-50, they hold the shares. On behalf of
So you have talked about states that states will struggle. You mentioned some states who are indebted, states have a revenue challenge as well. This removal of subsidy too, it looks imminent with this incorporation as well. So will the refineries that are being refurbished, the Dangote refinery coming up, in any way soften the effect of this, the domino effect happening now?
The Dangote refinery will never solve any problem with respect to price. In fact, the Dangote refinery, if it comes on stream finally, after more than 4 postponements of the day of its launch or coming on stream, what that refinery will do, that it will benefit heavily from the commercialization of NNPC, for it will now not sell at regulated price. First of all, let me tell you that the Petroleum Product Pricing Regulatory Authority, all the people there will lose their jobs because they are now moribund and will no longer be necessary. But the Dangote refinery will benefit heavily from the regime of commercialization. And then the NNPC, of course, will have to, because it will have no option now, if it wants to stay in the market, other than to build new refineries or refurbish the old ones. My take is that NNPC should decommission all the refineries because they are old and unserviceable, and then build new ones. It can do that through public-private participation or joint venture with the international oil majors.
Right. What will happen to the NNPC status as sole importer of PMS, that import monopoly? Now that it's no longer a state-owned enterprise, what will happen to that status? Will it still be fair to give it undue advantage by keeping its status as the sole importer of PMS?
In the transition period, which will terminate in June next year, NNPC will still operate like that. It will still operate as the big boy in the market. Because some regulations will still be needed for the sake of national security, for the sake of safety, and for the sake of allowing the private sector to be weaned commercially into the system. Nobody is going to build any refinery in Nigeria at all, except it's absolutely sure that the price will be favorable. No private investor invests in the business that they are not sure that they will get any returns. Nobody does that. What Bank Dangote was doing, huge. And of course, because at times, with due respect to him, I don't query his business sense, he must have been enjoying some official protection, such that, how come that it is when it is about to go, to commission his project, the government now suddenly realizes that it has to now commercialize NNPC, so that Dangote can now begin to make huge profit. So, except business concerns like Dangote, no other businesses will be interested in investing. And because of that period, because of the need to in terms of importing the tank farms, the barges, the storage, and other things related to the downstream and upstream sector will still be on until June next year. And don't forget, even with Kiari and the rest that are now the group managing director, if the government changes and they change him as the group managing director of NNPC, he will lose his job there, and another person will come in. That's how it is. It is not as if he's going to be GMG forever. No, it's not like that. He's there because of his status as head of NNPC for now.
Right.
And of course, the Minister of Finance and their representatives are also there temporarily.
It sounds like a lot is resting on this public offer in June next year. It sounds like a lot of the changes will happen now. And, what you said about the Minister of Finance, along with another ministry incorporated, holding it on behalf of the federating units, it sounds like it's privatization, or whatever privatization is being realized will not fully happen until June next year. Is that correct?
Yes, it will not fully, but some of it will begin. But please let me say that NNPC is not being privatized at all. It is only being commercialized.
What's the difference?
Commercialized. The difference is that it is in what the Yoruba would call taloye tope. In other words, NNPC henceforth begin to sell your product according to how it can be favorable to you. And if it is favorable to NNPC, it actually means that it will sell it at commercial rate, that is, with a markup of the profit margin after deducting the cost of acquiring the product. And that's it. And privatization actually means that it will not be owned by the private sector. The private investors will own it. But no, the majority shares in NNPC is still being held by government agencies and government institutions. Don't forget, Federal Ministry of Finance and the Federal Ministry of Petroleum. That is significant. This is unlike the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas, LNG, that we have in Bonny. That is the only successful business that Nigeria has ever made and has ever had since 1957, when the finance ministry of this country began to be controlled by a Nigerian person rather than by the British. And that was Samuel Festus Okotiebo, Nigeria's first finance minister. Nigeria has never made any business and made profit. Nigeria is a heavy loser in investing and doing any business. In fact, all these businesses have collapsed. If you check the books of NNPC, do you know it's in the red? NNPC is owing heavily. It's owing the federation, it's owing the federal government, it's owing the state, it's owing the federation account, it's owing the local government. NNPC is owing owing joint venture cash costs. NNPC is owing the international oil majors. NNPC is a shame. So, in order for government not to continue the shame, that's why it decides to say, okay, NNPC henceforth, you are commercialized, but I still hold my shares there. But the federal government says, okay, even though it is commercialized and I'm still the majority shareholder, there will be a private sector will be allowed to have some shares in it. After the real value of NNPC might have been worked out next year.
So that
like the NLNG, Nigerian government only has 49% share in the Nigerian liquefied natural gas in Bonny, and the Italian major investors and other international oil majors have 51%. So it is Nigerian company, but foreigners hold more shares in that company than Nigerian government.
So what would be the case for the NNPC when eventually it goes commercial, it goes on the stock exchange? Will the federal government still hold the larger share?
Majority share.
The majority share.
The federal government, the federation, it will not be the federation. Don't forget that this is the asset of the federation, not the asset of the federal government. You know, the federal government has been behaving as if it's the owner of Nigeria. But that is not true. You know, the owners of Nigeria are, 1, the 768 local governments. 2, the 6 area councils in Abuja, which makes people to call it 774 local government. 3, the 36 state government. 4, the federal government. These are the shareholders. These are the owners of Nigeria. Federal government should not be behaving because it has been behaving like that since 1945, as if it is the only owner of Nigeria. No, it's not true. It's not true. So the shareholders will decide, and then the unbundling the NNPC shares will be done next year, so that Nigerians can also buy shares. You too can buy shares there. I mean, Splash FM can buy shares there. 1 share, 1 naira. 200 billion shares.
Right. Do you see any parallels between the NNPC Limited being commercialized and what happened with what used to be NEPA and how it became PHC? And there are some people who are drawing parallels between the two. Do you see any similarity, or to what extent does the similarity end or lie?
There's no similarity between the two at all. One is completely privatized, except, of course, if you like, take, for instance, the electricity production companies in Nigeria. It is the distribution, it is the transmission that the government still holds the share, the transmission lines, and the generation in Egni. For example, government has not sold Egni electricity, the thermal station, and government has not sold Kenji. But government has commercialized other areas, like sale, like owning 1 or 2 assets like that. But NNPC will only be commercialized, not privatized. So we are not going to have this Akure distribution company, Ibadan distribution company, the equivalent in NNPC at all. It will not happen that way. It's only commercialization. In other words,
before we leave issues relating to the NNPC, I would like to also ask this. Are there other countries that have gone these routes before that we can possibly draw lessons from? I know people have also talked about the Saudi Aramco, but are there other countries that we can also draw inspiration from? Because like you said, government has never been a successful owner of business, and will people trust? Will people trust the government again? So, are there countries that we can draw parallels from in this regard?
Yes, of course. Most of the oil majors and the oil companies you have in the United States are owned by the private sector. But if you say that that would be too far, what of Egypt? I mean, what of Saudi Arabia? I mean, we started about the same, probably about on the same platform. We and Saudi Arabia are members of the OPEC, and it's like that. But let me say that Gazprom of Russia is neither privatized nor commercialized. It belongs to the Russian Federation because it's the largest earner of revenue in Russia. So, of course, yes, you can look at the example of Aramco, and there's nothing bad in that. The only problem is the trust deficit between the Nigerian government and the governed, the trust deficit. Evidence has shown from economic history of Nigeria, that the Nigerian government has been an extremely bad manager of money and investment. Evidence is now very clear now. Of course, you know that even the finance minister confessed. It was only that she didn't say that Nigeria has gone bankrupt. She only fell short of saying that. But that's the truth. Because how come that a government, the total income of a government, current income, is not enough to pay all it, to service its debt, not to even pay, to service its debt. I mean, is that not bankruptcy? But because of maybe patriotism, because she's a public official, she can't talk like us. That's why she said that we are in dire financial straits. Of course, if Nigeria were to be a private sector investment, I mean, she would have gone bankrupt into receivership and should have been sold off. I mean, but the truth of the matter is that because of the poor management of Nigerian resources by the government, particularly the government of the Nigerian state in the last 22 or 23 years, there has never been that trust between Nigerians and the government. And so that is the fear. But the truth of the matter is that going purely in terms of economics, it is the right way to go. It does not make sense to continue with a regime of subsidy that takes away 1/4 or 1/3 of your total income. It is senseless.
Right.
It is totally senseless.
Dr. Guyami, before we move over to talking about Nigeria's debt-to-revenue ratio, I still have a question left over on this issue of the NNPC transitioning to NNPC Limited, which is thankfully you're a lawyer. A lot of the NNPC Limited's confidence in its independence and its positive change seems to rest on the Petroleum Industry Act. Now, as a lawyer, do you think that that's the faith that it has, that the president has said how the PIA Act will strengthen the institution, it will provide a regulatory and fiscal framework? It seems to be central to this transition, really. So, do you think that faith in the PIA Act is justified in holding the new NNPC in check, keeping it accountable and keeping it up to standard?
Yes, don't forget, the PIA is the lead act with respect to petroleum in Nigeria. It is the lead, that is the flagship. But because NNPC is going to transmit now into a limited liability company, the lead act will change from PIA to CAMA, that is Companies and Allied Matters Act, because NNPC is now a registered company with shareholders and with directors. I don't want to go into the federal balance of the directorship. I'm not bothered about that for now because I know it will change. But the truth of the matter is that it is the Company and Allied Matters Act that is now the lead act for NNPC Limited as a commercial concern, no longer necessarily like petroleum, because it now has to flow according to the requirements and conditions of its registration by the Corporate Affairs Commission. It can no longer misbehave and be keeping its books in such an opaque manner that his books, by the financial accounting, will be completely outside of the knowledge of the National Assembly. Do you know that NNPC henceforth will now begin to pay taxes? It will pay taxes just like MTN, Econet, Glo, they are paying taxes. It will now show some responsibility. And if NNPC's right of way for its its pipelines, which crisscrosses the country, if it bursts and it destroys the farmland of anybody, you can proceed against NNPC. Unlike before that it receives legal protection by the government. You proceed against it in damages. It's as simple as that. Look, it is not going to be rosy. And anyone who is in the NNPC thinking that it's going to be an opportunity to fester his ethnic, religious, or family interests to populate NNPC with his kinsmen now, at the expense of the Nigerian investors, will be shooting himself in the foot. It's no longer possible. It's no longer a dumping ground for failures in the political realm who will be using it as compensation for their political stooges. Because it will now be a company that its books must be open. We must know how much NNPC is actually earning.
All right. So let's, because of time, I know there's so much to uncover as regards this issue, because I would really also like to know who selects the GMD now, who select the board of directors and all of that when eventually July next year comes. But let's talk about this debt to the revenue ratio. We've talked about this on this program with you in the past several times, and we've talked about how the federal government keeps saying, well, it's not bad yet, we can still borrow more because our debt to revenue ratio is still good enough. But now it looks like the story is different. So when the Minister of Finance made that announcement, what was your reaction?
My reaction was that we told you, didn't we tell you? I mean, we said it. We want, my brother there, Rewani, want financial derivatives. Pat Utobi, a political economist, want Dr. Teriba, an econometrist, want. There are patriotic Nigerians who warned us and said, see, we were fishing in very dangerous waters. And in fact, do you know that in the year 2020, our debt service ratio in terms of revenue was 95%. There's also an organization called Budget, headed by Onigbinde. Onigbinde has been studying Nigerian budget now for the past 15 years. And he wants the sustainability ratio of the Nigerian financial system in terms of our, the quality of our debt and our borrowing portfolio was dangerous. Now, suddenly, not only because of COVID, the after effects and the aftershock of COVID, but also because of a war that we did not cause. Some two countries are fighting in Eastern Europe, Russia and Ukraine. The chicken has now come to roost. So we told them, see, the problem of the Nigerian Ministry of Finance Incorporated started when some people connived to boot out Kemi Adeosun, that highly cerebral finance minister. They booted her out on some flimsy issues and excuses that the court has now vindicated her on the issue that she should not serve in NYSC. How could you serve in NYSC when you were, at that time, you were not a Nigerian citizen? But let's leave that. The problem is poor management. See, Nigeria has not been this poorly governed since 1957. Particularly with respect to our finances, we have not been this poorly governed. And it is a shame, especially a country that has more than 42 departments of economics scattered in all the federal universities in Nigeria. You need a crack econometrist, and you are putting people because of political relevance. Is that not a shame? So we told them. Now the chicken has now come to roost. Do you know those that I pity? It is states like Ekiti, states like Osun. Oh, I'm very sorry for the new governor that is coming in. Very sorry for him, because within 6 months he will grow white hair. He will know the difference between managing an economy and just talking politics. So the truth of the matter is that we are not likely to get out of the debt burden in the next 20 years. Any Nigerian who is 40 years of age now will not likely see any good finances for Nigeria until he's 70 years of age. Not likely. Not likely.
So if you can advise Nigeria's next president, what immediate moves, or maybe even this government before they step out, what immediate moves do you think? Because a lot of conversation has been going on about security, about the state of the economy, about our debt accumulation. But of course, you do not envy, just like you do not envy the next Osun State governor, you do not envy the next Nigerian president, because it looks like there are major challenges just waiting ahead. So if you were in a position to advise, what would that advice or advices be?
Number one is to now begin to get crackheads, professionals. They are in large supply. Nigeria has more than enough crackheads to solve economic problems. Assemble them regardless of their political leanings. Regardless. Look, the time has come for the president of Nigeria now to say, come to Macedonia and help us. Because evidence has shown that he has absolutely no idea. In fact, he's just marking time to go away. He said it. He said he will go away so far from Abuja that nobody can come and trouble him again. Can you imagine? But the first thing is to assemble those heads. And then the second is to grow the revenue. Look, Nigeria is grossly under-revenued. We don't have enough money. We are so poor. You know, some people think Nigeria is so rich. Where do you have the money? Where is the money? Your total income, in fact, this year's budget is just about 35 billion American dollars. That's barely enough for what South Africa uses in managing refuse. To just manage refuse in South Africa, $35 billion. Not to talk of generating electricity. If Nigeria does not have $200 billion investing every year for the next 10 years, she can never develop. She can never. So, and the total income on a good day that Nigeria is in now, it is just about $40 billion that she has. And our requirements to build railway, to get electricity, without electricity, we are not going anywhere in modern development anyway. You need 200 billion. So where will she get the difference of 160 billion within a period of 1, 2, 3, 4 years that the new president will be there? As for this government, just forget it. Don't even think about any idea. Except that Lord Almighty just come from Zion and do something fundamental for Nigeria. Forget it. But the new one should, first of all, assemble them, the great one. That's what Awo did. Awo was not, people thought that Awo was a spirit. No, it was his capacity to get the best materials together to do the right thing. AMA Adekunle Ajashin in education, Ezekiah Oluwasomi in university, Ed Anthony Enao in information. He put the best in the right places. Let the new president do that. Then grow the revenue. Then 3, think of cutting down drastically on the payment given to political office holders. So this idea of appointing ministers for, ministers of, minister from, minister to, working for, it's wasteful. Every minister. I mean, for example, although it is a fundamental problem levied upon us by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, so look at how to renegotiate Nigeria's debt instruments, to improve on the quality of our debt, and to shift from the idea of direct borrowing now to converting our assets to liquid that we can use to support capital development. These are the things I will just advise for now, because the incoming president of Nigeria will have so much in his hands that it will be sober within the first 6 months. Very sober.
So, what major hard decisions? Because the case of subsidy, for instance, we've been on it for a while, since when that Occupy Nigeria protest against Goodluck Jonathan. So, what major difficult decisions do you think the next Nigerian president must take within the first 3 or 6 months?
He must expunge the subsidy regime. We don't need the petroleum pricing, product pricing regulatory authority. He should completely remove that obnoxious agency. It's not necessary, because NNPC is not commercialized. Remove the subsidy regime. It's absolutely unnecessary. We don't need it for now. It's going to be painful, yes. But when you want to treat malaria, do you enjoy the medicine? Do you enjoy the drugs? You don't. But that is what you need to be able to get well. That is what we need for now. 2, increase the trust quotient, the TQ, the trust quotient between the Nigerian public and the Nigerian citizenry. And then 3, think of a way of growing some jobs. Because if you don't grow jobs, ensure that jobs are provided, there is no way you can tax. There won't be anything to tax. Already I'm thinking that some people thought that, Oshun will now levy taxes. Which taxes? You want to levy taxes on people who are not productive, who don't even have any job to do? You can't do that. I mean, you cause a major social unrest. So let government do something about jobs. The template is already there. They know it. We have submitted. Some of us have submitted to them. The Nigerian Institute for Social and Economic Research has submitted to government. The Agricultural South Union of the University has submitted to the government. In fact, government is resistant. Government does not want to use our ingrown suggestions to grow the economy. Rather, is depending upon foreigners who are bringing IPPIS, GIPMIS, and the failed financial system that they are using. So let government just think about these areas. And finally, take a fundamental political decision to amend the constitution, to restructure the power equation in Nigeria, such that there is a correlation between generating more money and getting allocation. The present practice in which you just got money thrown at you by the Federation Account Allocation Committee, working on the basis of Section 162, and the throwing of money is based upon population and geographical size, most on economic and anti-development criteria. You now base it upon either financial comparability or fiscal absorptive capacity. So a state will now get money from for example, from the value-added tax purely on the basis of how many people are actually paying tax in your state. How many people? If no person they are paying tax, if you are not encouraging businesses in your place, why must you get it from the value-added tax? For example, why should Zamfara, that is implementing Sharia law, get any money from the taxes levied on beer and distilleries produced in Songwater? Why? I expect Zamfara to reject that kind of money because it will be infidel money. Reject it. But Zamfara is getting more allocation on the value-added tax, you'll be surprised, than Bayelsa State. So if you encourage a business activity in your area, you get a directly proportional taxes from that kind of a business. We need to rejig our Company Income Tax Act our Personal Income Tax Act, and the section dealing with revenue matters in Nigeria, Section 162. The jack account between the state and local government needs to be rejigged. Otherwise, we are deceiving ourselves. Local government will not be centers of development and the grassroots. Already they are emasculated by the state through the joint account, the jack account that they operate, courtesy of Section 162, subsections 4 to 8 of the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria.
All right. Time is fast spent, but let's see if we can sneak in maybe one or two calls. Dr. Oguyemi, please stay on the line. We also have a few comments on social media as well. 0704-400-1067 or 817-444-1067.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning to you.
Thank you. I want the report of the Honorable report on this issue to make Nigeria forward. Because the running cost of the government is too much. Where do you to get it? They don't collaborate with the tax they are getting. Look at, for example, the way they run government, the governor is collecting money from the Lagos state, and the same thing in the Zampara. It is so the cost of running government. What will happen to that? And that's our agency. Of the federal government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Oguyemi, just to be clear, can you hear the call?
Yes, I heard it perfectly. He's saying that what we spend on recurrent expenditure is by far much greater than what we spend on capital development, because it is capital budget that grows the economy. Recurrent budget is only consumption. And let me give you an instance. There is no single state in Nigeria, apart from just 5, Lagos, Rivers, Delta, Kaduna, say from the middle belt, that their budget, the comparative value of investment in recurrent versus capital budget is even up to 60%. None. For example, in Ekiti State, recurrent budget is greater than 70%. Where in the world do you spend more than 70% of your total income on consumption, and you are expecting that you will develop? You are not going to go anywhere.
All right.
In Osun State, it's 80%.
All right, let's take another call now. Hello, good morning.
Olariwaju Seriki is my name from Camp Abiyakuta.
Please go ahead. You have a minute.
I want doctor to please address the side effects of commercialization of the short-term side effects of commercialization of NNPC. You know, there's no way we not have its own side effects on the economy. For how long will it take us and something of such? Please let him enlighten us on that.
All right. Dr. Oguyemi, if you can do that.
The social effect will not be pleasant at all. I mean, it actually mean that there can be some protests. I'm not encouraging any protestation in my fatherland, but that's the truth, because Nigerians will now pay more now. Do you know that on an average in West Africa, the West Africa sub-region, and some of us have been to some of these countries. I just left Guinea-Bissau yesterday. So the comparative value of a liter of fuel, do you know it's actually 600 naira. That's what it should be, 600 naira. I mean, you want to say 600 naira per liter of maybe petrol in Nigeria? The huge social cost of that will be phenomenal. Because the first thing is that a lot of people will lose their jobs, because some countries can just not run like that. I mean, they will collapse. Already they are collapsing. So if you now say, pay, it may be, I don't want to use the word bloody, but that's the truth.
All right. Dr. Oguyemi will appeal that you spare us a few more minutes because we have to proceed on a commercial break now, so that we can take maybe a few more calls and also some comments on social media.
Don't dare touch that dial. It's Splash, your integrity station.
àṣeyọrí gan làgbà iṣẹ́ gbogbo aláṣeyọrí ayọ̀ aláṣeyọrí classium and property limited lónìí ọ̀pọ̀ ilẹ̀ wọn ti di wàá mú tirẹ̀ báyìí lórí owó tí kò ga ju ara lọ randa extension hilltop máwùkọ́ àti kọ̀bàpẹ́ 100,000 ní plọ̀tì yìí bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni lóko wọn ti di ọ̀pọ̀ yùkẹ́ mo lọ́kẹ̀dẹ̀ 25,000 ní plọ̀tì kan bẹ̀ kọ̀bàpẹ́ alábàtà òṣìṣẹ́lẹ̀ 30,000 ní plọ̀tì ẹ̀ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta kẹ́ẹ̀gbá ìdajì sí bó sì jẹ́ ékalẹ̀ra òdìdí lẹ́gbàsí pẹ̀lú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àǹfààní tẹ́ẹ̀jẹ̀ lórí ilé oko wọn torí pé àwọn onírà àti onímọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ti wà níkàlẹ̀ láti là ń lọ́yẹ̀ lórí kan tẹ́ gbìn sílé oko tẹ́ bára. 4 Mọ̀túndì Abiola Way Ilego Daily Express furniture ni wọ́n wà ọlọ́ṣogbo Abẹ́òkúta Ògùn State 08033086557 08033086557. lóòótọ́ àṣeyọrí gan làgbà iṣẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ń bá ń bá wa ná dandan ní kẹ́ ẹ láṣeyọrí ayọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ tiwa. ọjọ́ 21 oṣù tá a wà yìí làǹfààní yóò pin.
Honey, must you go?
Baby, no, I must. Besides, you can always video call me.
Hey, what if your battery runs out?
I've got my power bank.
Hey, and when your power bank runs out?
Babe, I've got my laptop.
Okay, wait. What if your data runs out?
Babe, you know we never run out of data.
Never run out of data with Airtel Home Broadband Unlimited Ultra plans. Enjoy unlimited data with no speed cap plus extra data daily, so you never have to worry about running out. Visit www.airtel.com.ng/HBB to get started.
Babe, but I just left the house.
Yes, honey. It's video calling all the way.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Oga Kemisi, ma bonta. Oga Kemisi, come outside, yo.
Madam, kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀?
Kí ló dé tó gun bà fọ́mọ mi? Tó bá ní kó lọ sọ fún mi pé kí n wá fúnra ra mi. Irú ọ̀rọ̀ wo nìyẹn?
Ẹ farabalẹ̀, madam. Fún àǹfààní ara yín ni mo ṣe ní kẹ́ ẹ wá. Ó yá, ẹ jókòó. Báwo lẹ ṣe mọ̀ pé ibà ló ń ṣe yín?
Ẹ máa gbọ́ béèrè. Ara mi ń gbọ́rọ̀ ni kẹ́.
Ẹ wo, madam. Ìyẹn ò tí ì tó nǹkan tẹ́ lè sọ pé ibà ló ń ṣe yín o. Ẹ kọ́kọ́ ṣe àyẹ̀wò rapid diagnostic test láti ṣàrídájú pé ẹ ní àrùn ibà lóòótọ́. Kì í ṣe kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ máa ń kóògùn jẹ́ ṣáàkẹ́ lẹ́yìn ṣètọ́jú ibà.
Ìyẹn lè bá dẹ̀ ti sọ tẹ́lẹ̀.
Kò tán síbẹ̀ o. Tẹ́ ẹ bá ṣe àyẹ̀wò RDT tí èsì àyẹ̀wò dẹ̀ sọ pé ẹ ní ibà, ẹ rí dájú pé oògùn ibà tó ní ACT lẹ lò láti ṣètọ́jú ẹ̀. Ìyẹn làwọn ìjọba Nàìjíríà fọwọ́ sí o. Àti pé ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ rí dájú pé ẹ parí iye oògùn ACT tó yẹ kẹ́ ẹ lò ó.
Darapọ̀ mọ́ ìpolongo àrùn ibà pòfó bẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀lú mi nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Láti ní orílẹ̀-èdè tí kò ní àrùn ibà, kó ipa tirẹ̀. Ìkéde yìí wá látọ̀dọ̀ ìjọba àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà pẹ̀lú àjọṣepọ̀ àwọn àjọ tó ń gbógun ti àrùn ibà.
ó yá lágboolé aláyọ̀ nítorí pé eléyìí gangan dùn ní níléeṣẹ́ Atlantic Estate and Homes Limited lórí àwọn ilẹ̀ wọn ilẹ̀ onígangan àti ilẹ̀ ìyànàgùnfà àti randa 150,000 ní ilẹ̀ ń bẹ ní òbúrò àwòwò àti ẹ̀yìn ecogas lólómore akíjọ́lélàlà ládẹ́rìn extension èyíkéyìí nínú àwọn ilẹ̀ bàtà ọ̀dọ̀ wọn ẹ ti láǹfààní láti gba ọ̀kadà bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ń lé oko wọn alábàtẹ̀rinlẹ̀ ìṣìhún mọ́lọ́gẹ̀dẹ̀ kọbapẹ́ ìṣàgọ́ orílẹ̀ ọ̀bádà oko pàkùdé 30,000 làwọn ilẹ̀ yìí ẹ bára plot bẹ́ta ẹ ti láǹfààní sí ìdajì ó jẹ́ ékalera òdìlẹ́gbàsí àwọn onírà ti wà ńlẹ̀ tí wọ́n ṣe àlàyé tàbí báyìí rà lórí rẹ̀ tó bá ilé oko yín mu kẹsà máa gba rìsíìtì torí pé ẹni márùn ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ bá ti ra ilé oko wọn ní ò láǹfààní láti gba ọ̀kadà 30 ilé ẹjọ́ lónìí bú Lagos Abiokuta expressway lọ́nà tó lọ sí bíórì láfíwá Abẹ́òkúta Ògùn State 08138454500 08138454500. ọjọ́ 21 oṣù tá a wà yìí láǹfààní yóò pin. mo ti donílẹ̀ mo ti dà láyọ̀.
ọjọ́ ti pẹ́ tá a ti ní ìrírí iná mọ̀nàmọ́ná tí kì í ṣe déédéé owó tá a fi ń ra epo sí jẹnẹrétọ̀ wa ń fi ojoojúmọ́ gòkè sí i àfi bí ajá tó ń sáré tó wó ń jóná kò sówó a tún fi owó ọ̀hún rajà tó wọ́n ẹni tó fẹ́ wo tẹlifíṣàn tan fan gbórin aládìídùn lálẹ́ tó wá tún ẹ̀rọ amúnáwá jẹnẹrétọ̀ fún wákàtí 8 lójúmọ́ á ná 1,800 naira fowó epo a ò fura ní o 12,600 ló máa jẹ́ lọ́sẹ̀ 54,000 naira tán ni lóṣù kan eléyìí ò wá pọ̀ jù ṣé bí mo bá fi ọ̀nà kan hàn yín tí àwọn tí wọ́n já sí ń tọ̀ tí wọ́n fi ń gbádùn iná mọ̀nàmọ́ná tí kì í ṣẹ́jú ṣẹ́yìn náà máa tọ̀ ọ́. June 6 Energies Nigeria Limited ní ilé iṣẹ́ tí ó ti múra tán láti ṣe àtìlẹ́yìn fún gbogbo ẹni tó fẹ́ gbádùn iná mọ̀nàmọ́ná tí kì í ṣẹ́jú kíkì nípasẹ̀ agbára oòrùn. Àṣeyọrí gbogbo ìgbà ń ló jẹ́ kí June 6 Energies máa tẹ̀síwájú níbi ká bá ní ṣe solar inverter fún ilé iṣẹ́ ńláńlá àti kéréje-kéréje solar TV solar freezer solar street light àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ansarudin House Quarry Road Pepsi Abẹ́òkúta 081-2926-7722.
ABR ọ̀rẹ́ àgbẹ̀ àbísúyọ lóko bọ̀pá dé. wọ́n ní ẹ ò gbọ́dọ̀ kárí ẹ̀ lórí ìgbọ̀ ọ̀tún. pàápàá àǹfààní tó gbọ́mọpọ̀n dáadáa. ilẹ̀ oko mọ́lọ́gẹ̀dẹ̀ orílẹ̀ ìlúgùn ọlọ́run dá 25,000 ní plọ̀tì báyìí. ẹ ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta kẹ́ ẹ gba ìdajì sí i. ó sì jẹ́ éèkà lẹ́ra ẹ gba plọ̀tì kan sí i. ilẹ̀ àgbẹ̀ kọ́bapá alábàtà ọ̀pẹ́jì 30,000 per plot. bẹ́ẹ̀ bára plọ̀tì mẹ́ta ìdajì lẹ́gbà sí i. ó sì jẹ́ éèkà lẹ́ra ẹ ó gbòdìdì kan sí i. àwọn onírà ti wà ńlẹ̀ láti ra èrè oko yín 39 Academy NTA Road Ogbe Abeokuta 08033706236 08033706236 ABR ọ̀rẹ́ àgbẹ̀ abisuyo lóko pọ̀kọ̀ ìgbọ̀tún fáwọn àgbẹ̀. ọjọ́ kọkànlélọ́gbọ̀n oṣù tá a wà yìí làǹfààní yóò pin.
My number one. I know right here.
Splash FM.
It's my number one. I'm staying right here.
What I'm trying to say.
Stay
106.7.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Welcome back to Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM. This is the Integrity Station. And before we went on that break, we had on the line, or we still have on the line even, Dr. Ogunyemi with us this morning. And we've been trying to make sense of what the NNPC Limited means, for the purpose of those that listen to us. And also talking about the debt to revenue ratio. The Minister of Finance made a jarring announcement last week as to how debt, has now surpassed what we generate as revenue. But I will take two calls and then get to social media because we have to proceed to the second segment of the show. So if you can keep your call to 45 seconds, 1 minute, we will accommodate two more calls and then we'll get Dr. Ogunyemi to respond to the calls 0704 400 1067. Good morning.
Nicholas, I will try and be brief. 45 seconds is too small.
1 minute, please go ahead.
Okay, you see, during the Second World War, the American president redeployed General Patton to the Philippines, and he asked for the notes of all the previous commanders because they had failed in that part of the war. You know what? You know what they did? She burnt them all. And there was something he said. He said, the secret is not new weaponry. Wars may be fought using weapons, but they are won by men. It is the spirit of the men who follow and the man who leads that gain the victory. Dr. Ogunyemi, the most important thing he said was that this government lacks the idea. Call it relaunching, transforming, rebranding. These are semantics. Buhari and Kyari cannot lay the foundation of a new NNPC.
Please wrap up your thoughts, Nicholas.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Nicholas. Let's take one more call now, 0704 400 1067, and then we'll get Dr. Ogunyemi to respond.
On WhatsApp, Surakat Abdulhamid Abiodun says,
the call is here.
What's that?
Our final call for this segment. Please turn down the volume on your radio set.
Let's try again.
Good morning.
Yes.
Please turn down the volume on your radio set. We're going to have to let you go. Otherwise, this is your final try. Hello, good morning.
I'm okay now?
Yes, you're better now. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm coming from Kuto. My name is Martin.
Martins, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to differ from what the doctor has been talking about. The problem with Nigeria is corruption. Corruption. You are just providing some solutions. But what about those people who are already corrupt mindset, they have that tendency of corrupting themselves, everything themselves. They are still going to spoil the system for us. So what we not do? Why don't we talk about where everybody is going away from the big solution to this problem? You understand? Return the state back to the owners. You understand? Let everybody man its own resources. And you'll see how things will go on. Who will create jobs?
All right.
Create jobs. Instead to create jobs for themselves, they will know that they have problems in their hands. They know that they are accountable to the citizens. They will have to sit up.
Okay. Martins, I'm afraid we have to let you go due to the 1 minute rule. All right, let me race through WhatsApp and take the questions we have there. On WhatsApp, Surakat Abdulhamid Abiodun says, how can this work when our refineries are not working? Or is Mr. Ogunyemi, Dr. Ogunyemi, to you, want Nigerians to be paying far above 350 naira for 1 liter of petrol. They better have a rethink, do the necessary fundamentals before this is embarked upon. Too late. That horse has left the stables. I heard Mele Kiari saying federal government will still dictate the market price of petrol, and I hope Dr. Guyemi is also aware of that as well. I didn't hear any such thing, and I don't think that's true. But anyway, moving on to this next comment from Akinwale from Camp, who says, listening to Dr. Guyemi this morning, I don't know if this morning is good at all. Anyways, good days to you, Sister Lola Nogagboyega. For the first time, I feel like crying for this country. Listening to Dr. Guyemi declaring that as a Nigerian, one may not experience financial breakthrough in the next 20 to 30 years is like a death sentence. How can we still continue this way? We have really gone through a lot in this nation. This should not be happening again. I hope we all see the next election as a fight for our lives and elect an economically sound CEO to lead this nation. Else we might just be heading towards what I do not know. How can we not be making enough to service our debt, yet we keep borrowing? It is disheartening to know that our entire budget is what a country, which is not as big as ours, spends on waste management. The next election is a fight for our life and our existence, not just to elect party or kinsman. We have to deliberately fight for our freedom in our country. May the light shine on this country. This next one is from Sino from Abantogo, who says, good morning, Splash. I think it's high time we ask for foreign advice to move our nation forward. That is the result when you don't place the right people in the right place. No sector in Nigeria is productive. When a cargo brings cars from the Western world, it returns back empty because we do not have anything to export. Please come to Macedonia and help us. All right, trying to make sense of that last one. But the final comment on WhatsApp is from Nicholas, who says, as long as the NNPC is tied to any acronym that begins with N, especially Nigeria, the new NNPC, that's actually a valid point, the new NNPC will succeed to the extent the federal government wants her to succeed. You can't replace wolves with hyenas in the care of antelopes. All right, let's head over to Twitter and Facebook.
Twitter, Babs IBK said, good morning. With this new development in NNPC, it means it's now guided by KAMA of 1990 and its amendment. My question is, would the NNPC still be sold import of petroleum products into Nigeria and get it distributed to other private markets as well? Dr. Guyemi already attended to that. I said that will happen until next year, June, when in July the NNPC is expected to go fully commercial. Ajalayemi said, when I tell people that Chief Ernest Shonekon is my favorite past head of state, people don't understand. In that 3 months of his, it did 2 significant things, including the law setting up NLNG, which NNPC is now copying its format. Doctor said the NLNG is the only successful government business setup and investment since independence. All thanks to Ernest Shonekon. This commercialization is what should have happened to PHCN, but our dear GEJ and his cabinet had other ideas. And he said, personally, what I don't like about the new NNPC is its shareholding structure. What I would have liked was for the shareholders to be the state and not the federal ministry as well. Dr. Guyemi did say that the federal government...
The federating unit is made up of...
that the federal government acts like they are sole owners of Nigeria. He did reference that. Ambassador 013 said, please help me ask your wonderful intellectual if you listened to Minister Fashola yesterday that Nigeria is not broken and that if we can service our debt, it shows that we are very good economically. What can he say about Fashola's statement yesterday?
He goes on to say, Ambassador has more to say, actually, in the next response.
Yet to...
Okay, maybe let's take Otumba's comment.
Okay, Otumba Ejala said, corruption is the order of the day in Nigeria. The system was built to be so. We need a new CEO with the fear of God. Okay, I have the rest of Ambassador's comment now. Fashola also said that the rise in price of commodity in the market is a worldwide phenomenon. Is this also right with the state of insecurity, high unemployment, high interest rate, high inflation, and a comatose education, power, etc.? Thanks. Who are these guys, for God's sake? Well, I think we should get Dr. Guyemi.
Facebook?
Okay, Facebook. Okay, let me see. We have sanitary and okay. I think we can take. This after we have. Okay, I said White or 2.
Whichever one you can get to, whichever of the questions you can address.
Strictly speaking, they are just questions. They are comments, but the one that caught my attention more. Is the one that was trying to make a comment on the highly respected Minister of Works, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, senior advocate of Nigeria. With due respect to the learned Sikh, Raji Fashola, it is not a good thing to be giving people false hope. With due respect, sir, it is always very good to let Nigerians know the real situation. The truth of the matter is that the country is bankrupt. That's the truth. Let Nigerians know that. Maybe if they know, then they will now, it will be easier to convince them to contribute their quota in their respective ways on how to rebuild the comatose economy.
All right. I would like to sincerely appreciate you, Dr. Ogunyemi, for joining us this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Dr. Ogunyemi joined us live on the line there. Do you know from where now?
All I can say is it's from a West African country.
He
I
did
don't
say
know
he
which,
left Guinea-Bissau yesterday. But for the second segment of the show now, we have Dr. Kola Abiola, Mr. Kola Abiola joining us, soon to be doctor. I want to, maybe, should I say prophesy now?
Prophesy is good.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Trust you had a great weekend.
I wish.
All right, let's go through the headlines from the papers now. I'll quickly run through Vanguard's front page. Tension in INEC infighting threaten 2023 elections. Akpabio Lawan may be thrown lifelines. APC, PDP, some INEC officials in underhand moves. Femi Falano expects criminal prosecution of Akpabio Lawan. Activation of court orders delayed. Pressure on Yakubu to compromise commission. Electoral Act 2022 trampled. We stand by the monitoring report received from our state offices. INEC says, its commission is not under obligation to publish names of those not validly elected. NLC meets ASU, others on solidarity rally. Russia-Ukraine war, EU 6 additional gas supplies from Nigeria. A Muslim ticket. Again, Atiku and Tinubu are in verbal war. More on APC's Muslim ticket. Retired Air Commodore Suleiman says the Muslim ticket is a slap on northern Christians, as Fahmy tells Khan that Muslim ticket is not to undermine Christians. Threat to abduct President, Kaduna governor. Terrorists flog kidnapped train victims in fresh video. Rather sad. Heartrending, in fact. Amechi says that delegates at APC presidential primaries are now regretting their decision. One fear dead as Yoruba and Hausa clash in Ibadan. Federal government's 10,000 megawatts power generation target is under new threat as generation hovers around 3,869 megawatts. Peter Obi says, I'm more qualified than the APC candidates. NBA Olanikpekun face-off, body of benches convene emergency session, and that's it from the front page of Vanguard.
The front page of the Nigerian Tribune as Abuja-Kaduna train abductors threaten to kidnap Buhari Rufai. Why we can't bomb the hideout presidency. Says president has done what is expected of him as commander-in-chief. Oshun, I will expose you if you fail to perform as governor, the Jadeleke tells brother. I'm curious to see if indeed the governor-elect will have white hair or gray hair in 6 months, as predicted by Dr. Ogunyemi this morning. A water bill, Ijaw leaders kick against its reintroduction at National Assembly. Oyo 2023, Accord, ZLP, PRP governorship candidates missing as INEC displays particulars. Muslim ticket. Atiku attacks Tinubu again, says his memory may not be what it used to be. Says multiple sources confirm claim on APC flag bearer. Fahmy wants Khan to evolve charter of demands for political leaders. Yadua's men regroup for Atiku in Abuja. 55 of our members still in detention. Protests will continue. That's according to Shite. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to be completed this year. Fashola, NLC Shons FG prepares for nationwide protest to support striking varsity workers. With the rider, proposed protest not illegal. Falano tells FG. Makinde Olugbomon as Asenyi joins ancestors. Those are the headlines on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Arguably, so the major story here is the bandits or terrorists, as you may want to call them, threatening to kidnap the president and the Kaduna state governor, with the presidency responding to explain why they can't bomb their hideout, and that the president has done what is expected of him as commander-in-chief.
You know, there is this Yoruba adage that says that you leave ringworm, or you leave leprosy and start treating ringworm, the convoy of the president, which means if they have the zeal or the infantry to attack the convoy of the president, it means they are going to attack anybody. And so if having done what they have done in the correctional center over the last few years and nothing has been done, then I don't see why the federal government will say that they have done what they have done. You know, like once the work is not done, effort is zero. It's only when you get work done that you begin to calculate your efficiency. But once there is no work done, your efficiency is still zero. Has the federal government been able to rescue these people that have been kidnapped? No. Whatever thing that you think you have put into place, is it resulting into any positive output? No. We're in this country when citizens of another country was kidnapped, precisely America. They came in here, took away their citizen, and they rescued them. They didn't have to be telling citizens that they have done what they should have done. They have bombed what they should have bombed. The families and Nigerians don't care whether you want to bomb or you don't want to bomb. What we care about is I want to release these people from captivity. We want to stop them from this mental torture that they are going through. That's what we want. And unfortunately, the federal government is the only one that has all the machineries that can be available to any government to use. Is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The SSS are there. I don't know why. You can gather intelligence. You can do anything. Sometimes you begin to believe in some of this conspiracy theory, because I don't think that Nigerian security apparatus is in short of intelligent people. And I don't know why they would not be able to get to that place and break these people down. So when people, I think a video was flying online recently, and it was in Hausa. A lot of interpretation has gone into it. But when people are saying that some of the people that left Kuje prison are back in the forest, and that these people that they are holding is not enough for them that were there, that they are not a good swap. So you say that federal government deliberately closed their eyes to the attack of Kuje prison because they wanted to release the bandits that were arrested for these few people that are in the bush with the terrorists. So, and if you look at all those things that have happened, reporters said that before the attack, all the military posted to that Kuje prison were nowhere to be found, and everybody went on our way. So, for me, I don't think is a good statement coming from the federal government that they have done all that they can do. So it's just like you are telling the people that they are on their own. They are telling Nigerians that we are on their own. If anybody gets kidnapped, there is nothing the federal government can do. Over the years, we have seen people go into their hideout to discuss with them. I have always believed that when even the advanced country of the world say they don't negotiate with terrorists, at a point in time, there is an underhand play because the life of their citizens matter. Whatever the government need to do in this instance to save these people, the federal government should not come and be telling Nigerians that they have done what they should do. If they have done what they should have done, who do Nigerians turn to? The buck stop on their table, and they should do something. And until those people are rescued, that's when they can come. No excuse is good enough for this situation to remain like that.
All right, let's look at the political intrigues between INEC and political parties. According to this story, where it says there's palpable tension in the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over the continued push by the APC leadership to ensure participation of Senate President Ahmed Lawan and Godswill Akpabio in the 2023 senatorial elections of Yobe North and Akwa Ibom Northwest senatorial district, respectively. Contrary to what the leadership of INEC had told Nigerians, that the commission is legally bound to stand by the monitoring reports received from its state offices, verified pieces of information available to Vanguard suggest that INEC may have ignored these reports in some states of the Federation, including Kano, Sokoto, Abia, Ogun, Oyo, and Akwa Ibom. It goes on to list some of these states, but of interest also is the fact that this report also highlights that under Section 84, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2022, monitoring of party primaries by INEC is mandatory, and also only candidates that emerge from valid primary can be submitted to INEC for publication. So what we're seeing in several of these states is that a political party that has conducted its primary with an INEC observer there to validate that primary would then, and a candidate emerges from that valid primary, will then go back on its on that primary and say, oh, that's not the valid one, we held another one, or conduct another one at a later date and insist that INEC should publish the name of the one without the INEC observer, which is clearly against the law. But according to this report, in some cases, INEC did hit to this. Now, what I want to ask you is, do you think that INEC has maintained enough independence or has convinced you enough of its independence and its inability really to be swayed by pressures from these political parties? Because it appears that there is a lot of pressure from political parties. The INEC may not be giving in the case of Lawan and Akpabio yet, but in some of these other cases it is. So what are your thoughts? Do you think INEC's independence is convincing enough to withstand this storm?
Well, I wouldn't expect that INEC will be 100% independent in this 2022. But we must give it to them, or I personally will give it to them, that they have come of age, and for them to actually pass this, their input into this new electoral act, which now allows that election result can be transmitted electronically. If you observe that in 2019, 2019 was the last election, some governors are governors today because that law was not effective then, and all the result that will have all those people that did not have PVC, they were able to vote. But now with the beavers that they have introduced, without your PVC, you can't vote, and immediately election is done, results are counted. Nobody is going to be attacked on the road again. From your polling booth, they can set directly to them. And so to that extent, I think they are far better than what they were in 2019. And maybe, like they say, justice must come with equity. If INEC has been found wanting in some states, the political parties will leverage on that. That, okay, because you have done it to A, you must also do it to B. So if they have been found wanting in some states, I think they will have themselves to blame. But maybe it's because Lawan and Akpabio are the popular one. That's why we are hearing so much noise, and it's been very difficult for them to change. But I know that politicians and their political parties, if they want to go ahead and change this thing, look at the way those the two parties have used, what did they call it? When they brought out placeholder. There's no placeholder in Nigerian democratic setting, but they found a way that they are submitted. But one good thing that those people did was that they didn't just change their name. Those placeholders resigned, said they were not willing to contest again. So at that point, I don't think INEC can have anything over them. And I remember that the state in Nigeria, when they did their primary election, the result came out and they said the person that won had some hundreds of votes and the next person had 1 vote. But in twinkle of an hour, they said the next person had 0 votes. For ordinary people, it will not make any sense. But for politicians, it makes a whole lot of sense. Because if that person was supposed to is disqualified, the ticket goes to automatically the person with the next highest vote. So 1 vote, it's a vote. But if there is no 0 vote, everybody goes back to the primaries. So if this political party, instead of all this one that they're doing with INEC, they should call their party members in, and they know how to settle it and settle it. Every other person that participated in that primaries will resign and say they are not doing, and probably they will conduct another primaries. But let's see if INEC will blink first in this instance.
Now, a lot of people have been commending the Electoral Act since it was signed, and, its reformation, or let me say, the revolutionary nature of it was observed in the Osun election. Many commended that. But the fact that some sections of it are being flouted, does that not endanger the rest of it? Does that not undermine it to some extent? That's one. Then another is a lot of expectation is often placed and responsibility is often placed on INEC, perhaps rightfully so, as the one to be sane amidst all these gimmicks and tricks by these political parties. But it appears that these political parties, there's no end to the kind of underhanded tactics they will try, shouldn't there be some way to compel them to behave in a legitimate manner? Isn't there some way to compel them to force their hand, really, to act according to the law and not go against their own rules and against INEC's rules?
I think in a way they are acting. I personally would not expect them to be 100% law compliant, but I think the members of National Assembly are one group of people that Nigerians have not given kudos for the electoral bill. That electoral bill cost a lot of them from returning back to the House of Representatives and Senate. But it's one beautiful piece of legislation that they have given to Nigeria. And so, whether they are coming back or they are not coming back, they have, in my own opinion, they have left a legacy which can only be built upon. Like I said, the INEC of 1999 is not the same INEC that is here now. And there will always be loopholes in the Constitution or an act. It is meant for the people that are coming back to continue to block those loopholes until we have a watertight law. But you not forget that politics is about adding 1 minus 1, 1 plus 1, and so you cannot totally rule out all these schemings from politicians, because that's actually what the game is all about, scheme. And it's just like a test game. I read what you want to do to me, and I will
This is a clear disregard of the law, though.
Then that's why INEC is there. If INEC has not blinked in some states,
but it has blinked in others. Nobody
will expect INEC to blink with Lawan and co. So INEC too will have to put his house into order, that we are not going to blink at all, or we blink for everybody.
NLC Shons FG set for nationwide protest in solidarity with ASU, SANU, NASU tomorrow, with Falana saying proposed protest legal. Last week, the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, described this proposed protest illegal, saying that the federal government has no issue whatsoever with the NLC. But it looks like the NLC is going ahead.
Femi Falana has said it's legal. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria, so he should know.
Do you think all of this pressure will make there to be a solution to this ASU strike?
For me, NLC is 10 years too late. And when you say that, in this thing, they say that injustice to one is an injustice to all. ASU is an affiliate member of NLC. And I think last week I was seeing the calculations of time that has been lost to strike since 2015. Is it 2015? No, 2011. It's about 15 semesters. So since we started democracy, it's about 15 semesters. So 7 academic years has been lost to this strike or no strike. I don't think NLC should have waited this long, but it's better delayed than never, because every day we keep seeing people graduating from abroad, and which are people superintending over our Ministry of Education, our government offices, but they don't care what happens to the children of the common man. So I think whatever legitimate effort can be used to pressure this government to resolve this. Sometimes it's funny. Before this government came into being, most of this Adamu and Buhari were quoted to have said that government should honor the agreement reached with ASU. And fortunately, by either providence or whatever, Adamu is now in the Ministry of Education. What is so difficult about the agreement that you felt was good before you came into office? Now you have opportunity to honor those agreements. The committee that was even set up recently by, I think, BRICS or something like that, the federal government came out to say that the BRICS favored ASU, that ASU was going to make them spend so much money. If you are going to put so much money on ASU that everybody is going to benefit, and you are putting billions or trillions in food, what do you call it, primary school feeding, that we are not all seeing at all, which one is better? I think maybe this government is not just prioritizing what should come before the other one, and everybody is just playing to the gallery that this is what I can do, this is what... They are not thinking of us. We have been left on our own.
All right. Well, a few stories of interest. Headline from Premium Times says, according to military intelligence, terrorists are plotting more prison attacks in 3 states. Also, there's this breaking news as of less than 15 minutes ago of train victims' families protesting at Transportation Ministry. I think we should...
Well, yes, let's talk about... there's this headline here, please. Amotekun NSCDC intervene as Hausa Yoruba traders clash in Ibadan. And sometimes last year, we also had an attack in Sabo. The market has been reviewed now by Governor Seyi Makinde. But here we are again having something similar. Recently in Ogun State, as well in Abeokuta, we had in Lafen. Why do you think we keep having these incessant issues between, Hausa and Yoruba in certain communities across the Southwest?
I think the average Nigerian before now did not care which part of the country that you came from. And we used to live harmoniously. Our leaders, political leaders, religious leaders, sectional leaders have so much divided us because of their own pecuniary gains that everybody now does not trust anybody and any little thing. And because of the economy, because of the security situation of Nigeria, because of what is happening and the... initially when this kidnapping started, it was stereotyped to a particular tribe. But now we have seen that there are some other tribes that are also kidnapping too. So all these things that has been done to us by our leader has affected us in a way. And so any little thing, everybody flares up, and we are always suspecting ourselves now. And the harmony that used to be among brothers, even from diverse areas, is no longer there. Everybody sees themselves first as an ethnic being rather than seeing themselves as a Nigerian. And I think those are things that people should, our leaders should begin to address. They should begin to look at people they should begin to look at things that bring us together rather than hyping those things that divide us.
All right. Well, of course, there's back and forth between two of the major contenders for the presidential position, with one accusing the other of selective amnesia, the other accusing the other of sympathy ticket. Goes on and on. But let's head to the phone lines now, as well as social media, and read your comments and contributions there. 0704 400 1067, 0817 444 1067, 0817 555 1067, which also doubles as our WhatsApp line. I'm afraid we're still going to have to keep it to 1 minute. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, this is Nicholas.
All right, Nicholas, go ahead.
Good morning. When you read one of Obasanjo's books, My Watch, in the first few chapters, he said he's first Owu before he's Yoruba, before he's Nigerian. In the sociology of tribes, nations arise from tribes. But that's not this year. I took a little break. Sorry, did people talk about the UN call for Nnamdi Kanu to be released?
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay, sorry. Then on the Muslim tickets, I still insist that it is an insult to God, to Christians, to Muslims, and to our common humanity to think that there is no Christian who is competent in the North that can be a VP of one of the two dominant parties in this country, especially on a party whose motto premises on justice, equity, and peace. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Nicholas, for keeping it short. We do appreciate that. On Twitter, well, actually WhatsApp, also Nicholas saying, can Tinubu respond to the memory loss accusations through a 1-hour interview on live TV? 0704 400 1067, 0817 444 1067.
On Twitter, okay, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, this is Mike on the mic, calling from Obantoko.
Oh, Mike on the mic. Interesting. Please go ahead.
Yeah, please, I would just want to say this. This clamor for Muslim ticket, I think we've had enough of it. We've flogged the issue enough. Now, at this time out, we have three, I will use the word three political parties, and we have three aspirants. For me, I feel Nigerians are the one that's going to decide. Let everyone get our PVC and let everybody go out to vote for who we feel is right. It's not a matter of be it Tinubu or be it Atiku or be it Obi. Let's look at what they can do. Not look at what they have done before. What we feel they can do, and that's my own take on this issue.
Right.
It's not a matter of, I don't care who is at the end of that fair.
Right.
What I care about is them doing what is right and then making this country work again.
Thank you, Mike, for your contribution.
Thank you.
Speaking of getting your PVC, Kola Phillips from Ilario sent this comment in earlier, but I couldn't read it because we're rushing to get as much from Dr. Guyemi as possible. He said, "Good morning, Panorama crew. I did my PVC transfer last year, June, and I collected it. I choose never to take anything for granted." Thank you very much for doing your civic duty.
That you have done that. Critical Scorpio on Twitter, rebranding NNPC is like rebranding the Falcons with Randy Wardrum as coach and Onome be retained as the central defender. Leonard Sikh or no Leonard Sikh, ordinary Nigerians know the state of the nation. Otumba General said Nigeria will soon declare bankruptcy officially. The insecurity has even made it worse. Our ministers are politicians, and that's why there is a misalignment between pegs and O's. It's time we hand over the leadership of this country into the hands of right managers. This administration is fond of unnecessary blame games and surface dressing. We are wiser now. Facebook, Tayo Ademola Adeniro said, "Good morning. Please, Dr. Adeleke should not put much pressure on his brother Ademola Adeleke on issue of threat of Mr. President and El-Rufai. Do you remember these people have attacked NDA in Kaduna, even Aso Rock and many high-ranking places before, and they also attacked President Buhari's advance convoy recently in his state of Katsina. So many Nigerians will not be surprised if this unfortunate one is eventually happen, because it's been okay." Thank you very much for your message. I'm struggling to get to the rest of it. Santorin Akinlola said, "Good morning and well done on the threat to abduct Mr. President and a governor. Am I dreaming? White House down or what? This is a part of what we are saying. They need not to have granted these bandits an amnesty, but they go further to grant them amnesty and also bring them back to a society as they're back to wreak havoc. The statement from presidency is nothing to write home about." Zachariah Olubayo says, "On the threat to abduct Mr. President, it's an eyesore. This is the result of lackadaisical attitude of the government towards insecurity in the land. Government, do the needful. Are you fainting? Whoa."
All right, we have this extra comment on WhatsApp from Sino, who says, "Terrorists threaten to kidnap president. That's the result when you refuse to call a spade a spade. I have done what I am supposed to do." All right, then. Can we sneak in one last call before we have to go, or shall we call it a day?
I think we should call it a day. Thank you very much for your time this morning with us, Kola Abiola, especially for providing some interesting analysis on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you.
All right, Panorama will return tomorrow from 8, and don't forget by 9:30 tomorrow as well, we'll be playing host to officials from the Ogun State Health Insurance Agency. So all your questions about health insurance as an Ogun resident will be answered then. So make sure you listen from 8 to 10.
The phone lines are still buzzing. We apologize if we can take your contribution. We have to wrap up now because of some commercials that we have immediately after now. But thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow, God's willing, on another edition of Panorama. Myself and Lola will be by God's grace. I hope I don't have to be away again, but I do hope to be here tomorrow. Thank you very much. My name is Buyega Olaniyi.
I am Lola Neduteni. Enjoy the rest of your day.